You recorded Option Paralysis back in Cali with Steve Evans, as with the previous release. How did you feel it was different going in this time around compared to the first time?
Um, well, for me personally, Steve has grown with us. He's almost a sixth member at this point, where he's the only person that has an interesting perspective of having like an inside ear as far as he's been around for our development all the way, but he also is still an outsider, whereas he's not in the band, and he does all this other stuff in the meantime. So in between doing a record with us, he'll do 6 or 7 other records, and when he comes back to the table, he's got just as many new tricks up his sleeve as we have. So it's become a really fun, creative relationship too. Whereas we really, really value. He's the only person that can tell us something from an outside perspective, and we take it just as seriously as if one of us said it. And for me as a singer, Steve is also a very good vocalist. He's a really good, he's good at everything. He's a good piano player. He's a good bass player. He's got a good ear for rhythm. He's a good singer. And I've lived about 2 miles away from him now. And when we're not, in between Iowa and Option Paralysis, whenever I'm home, we hang out all the time. So for me, it was really beneficial to be able to, bounce ideas off of him while we were writing the songs and kind of skip the whole pre-production process, just because if I would always play him the demos and be like, what do you think of, this vocal idea? And he would just, we would kind of just have fun with him on the spot instead of waiting until we get into the studio,
Yeah. One of the most noticeable aspects of Dillinger is the use of the piano and the jazzy feel, incorporated in it. First, tell us how Mike Garrison came in to help in on that aspect.
This was completely one of the most insane. To me, this is one of the craziest days of the whole recording process. Was him coming in. We met him at a Nine Inch Nails show in L.A. We were asked to come out and do a guest spot. Come on stage and play some songs with Trent. And Trent asked Mike Garson too, who played on the Fragile, and he did some stuff with David Bowie. And he's just a really accomplished avant-garde jazz pianist. And we met him backstage, and turned out that we had more in common with this 65-year-old guy who comes from the jazz world as far as our views on music, and he has a really punk attitude towards writing and towards creating, and it's really refreshing to see a guy who is 65 have more enthusiasm for taking himself out of his comfort zone than most 25-year-old bands we meet. And he kind of just right away was just like, hey, if you need someone to play piano on your record, and we were like, you know what, we actually would love for you to come on. And we already had, the piano parts recorded, but they were very minimal compared to what he ended up doing. They were more or less just key changes and skeletons, because none of us, we're all mediocre at best as far as, piano goes. And, he came in, and one day, he didn't want to hear the song ahead of time because he's so into improv that his whole idea is, if I can't get it in 5 tries, then it's already corrupted and I'm not going to do it, which was already really intense, before we even started. So he comes in, we get a piano sound, with the keyboard or whatever. He listens to the song, and, then he was like, okay, hit record. And he just just nailed it. And 2 takes, and then we comped together a little bit from the first take and a little bit from the second take. But it was one of the most incredible displays, not just of virtuosity, but of just on-the-spot creativity that I've ever seen. It was really inspiring to see someone, like I said, that old still have that much to say,
Cool. I saw that Dimitri, the original vocalist, still contributes to the band, especially with the album cover. Who approached who concerning this?
Well, we were kind of down to the wire. We had a lot. Dimitri also did the layout for Miss Machine, and we had a few other guys working on it, and none of them were really, really doing the job. They were all. None of us agreed on it. Like, Liam liked one, and then Ben liked one, and then I liked one, and none of us liked the one the other one liked, and it was just coming down to the wire, and we were, asked Dimitri with pretty much a week to go before we had to turn in artwork, can you come up with something? And he nailed it, man, and not just coming up with something that looks really cool, but the packaging itself for the box set and the vinyl and the digipack are all really, really interesting, and I've never seen anything like any of them. Like, there's a there's stuff about the vinyl, stuff about the box set, stuff about the digipack that I've never seen before in any other thing. So the fact that he really stayed up for like 2 straight weeks, you know, all night, every day, almost to get that to happen was really cool. And it's honestly my favorite, you know, artwork and packaging we've ever done, which is great. It's a really cool way to keep someone from the past involved too, because there's zero bad blood as far as that personal relationship is concerned.
Cool. And the artwork really goes with the album title, Option Paralysis. How I see it is like the basically freezing up and coming up with answers or directions because of too many choices out there. How do you see that in relationship to what's going on out in the world?
Well, I mean, it is definitely an interesting. I think that, you know, everyone talks about being in like some sort of economic recession, but I feel like in a way we are in a little bit of a cultural recession, and I think some of it is due to the emphasis on, you know, it's kind of like in the movies where, like, you know, when CGI first came out, you know, you saw like after the initial like pop of like, holy shit, we can make, you know, dinosaurs look real and stuff like that. You saw like a good 10 or 15 years where I think like those kind of movies really took a hit. They weren't as good as the kind of movies, you know, the action type movies that came out before CGI, because there was too much emphasis on the form and not the substance, you know. And I think that's kind of been going on a little bit in our, you know, from our perspective. It's mostly geared towards the music world, where we see things like Pro Tools and the decline of the music industry. And, you know, now people are really just trying to squeeze a dollar out of anywhere they can because there's not as much money to go around. And, you know, from the recording standpoint, Pro Tools has made it so that anyone can sound any way they want, and it's just sucking any of the life out of, you know, music that existed in the past. You know, the kind of recordings that stand the test of time, whether it's, you know, Appetite for Destruction or Led Zeppelin 2 or Back in Black or any of these classic rock records, those kind of recordings don't even exist anymore because they're so sterilized. Because there's mistakes in those recordings, but those mistakes are what give them character. So, you know, we just saw it as like a kind of like we're in this frozen place as far as, you know, like, you know, not especially the music industry is concerned. It really started to become something that we were all talking about all the time. So when Liam, he's the one that came up with the concept, the Option Paralysis title. He was reading a book, and he, you know, spit that out to us. It was something that resonated with all of us. And for me, on a personal level, I felt like I was at a point in my life where I was really also stuck and needed to, you know, kind of free myself from a situation that I was into. So it really resonated in a couple of different ways for me.
Yeah, dealing with that being stuck and everything. I remember I did a quick interview with y'all when y'all were in San Antonio, and I thought I lost the audio. I actually found it a few hours ago. But from that interview, you mentioned how relationships and breakups have been a focal point in shaping your lyrics and music. How do you feel that it has shaped your outlook on your life and how you go about living it?
It's tough, man. I have to say that for sure, having done this for 10 years and really never ever making any type of personal relationship work. I mean, it deteriorates all of your personal relationships, whether it's with your family, your friends, you know, if you're trying to have some sort of, you know, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever relationship. It's really difficult, not just because of the length of time that you're on tour, but because of the things that inevitably happen when you're young and, you know, are a situation like that. So, I mean, I've definitely, you know, burned a lot of things down over time in my personal life, and I mean, learned a lot from it, and that always ends up being some sort of fodder for sure for creativity or for lyrics or